Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guess what time it is? It's Thursday, October 16th, 2014, and this is Day 9 Daily number 731, where we learn to be a better gamer. Terran vs. Zerg, let's talk about it. To understand today's topic of innovation versus soO, we have to think about the status of Terran vs. Zerg. Was it like a year ago? Doesn't matter. It was a year and some months, a year and, a dash of salt ago. The way the matchup worked was everyone's going to do the same thing for the first 12 minutes. I honestly feel like they should have just begun the game at like the 12-minute mark, because there was nothing. There was no changes. It was hard to commentate. It was really hard to commentate. I think I've even said this. I think I've been talking about that point for a long-ass time, where it was a difficult matchup to commentate because there was so few variations. The Terran would early expand and get Hellions, quickly try to get a double engineering bay, pump out a bunch of Marines, Marauders, Mines, Medevacs with 2-2 upgrade. Boom! And that was it. That's all that ever happened. And then Zergs would be doing their fast 3-base, get some Lings and Banelings to stay alive, or sometimes just Zerglings to stay alive, but then it's Ling, Baneling, Muta with 1/1-ups versus Marine Marauder Bio. It was the same thing. It was the same thing. It was it. That was it. That was all that happened. And weirdly, there's been this unusual trajectory for Terran, which has been get the Widowmine nerf, buff that, buff that, buff that, buff that, revert the Widowmine, boom! So when that first happened, I kind of had this like, ugh, where internally I felt a little bit pained because I was worried that it would return back to the same kinds of battles. And amazingly, there has been a big variety still of things that we're seeing Terran players do, and this is what I loved a lot about this match between Innovation and soO from GSL. We see some really cool, innovative stuff from Innovation, who really popularized ultra-standard Marine mine stuff. And we're going to talk about this. We're going to go through every single game in this best of 7. This is on Catalina, which I think I keep calling Cantanella. I think I may have called it that on many of my previous shows, and I keep instinctively wanting to call it that. And I'm wondering why that is, and I don't know. I don't know if I saw something with Cantanella, or maybe I've been watching Firefly, something like that. Alright, let me drink some delicious water. Here's what's something that's odd to me about this series. So it's the grand finals. It's the grand finals of the GSL. soO has gotten second place forever. He even gets second place here. And typically in a finals, there will be new strategies, but there tends to be longer games because people are so into it. What was interesting to me about this finals is it was very much so a bunch of plays that panned out or didn't. It was pretty overall quick games that were very decisive. So I was super excited when I watched this series because when I got access to the replays much later, I knew that it was going to be much different than I had. That's not a clear sentence. I'm going to start that sentence over. When I saw these games, I was excited for when I could get the replays to talk about them here, because they're different. Woo! Remember, doing a show is just like going on a first date or a job interview. The first sentence sucks, but then you go home, you're in that shower, and then you can think clearly again. Do we have audio? Of course we do. Nobody take a shot. Nobody take a shot. So what we're going to be seeing out of Innovation is a pretty typical opening. And again, what the Terran players used to do, to understand the Terran of now, we have to understand the Terran of old. Terrans used to do something, and then get Hellions, and then expand, and then go for double upgrades, and then plow out a bunch of bio, and then invariably get a bunch of Marine Marauder, Mine, Medevac. All the M's. So we see things starting out on this map, and we are going to make tons of references to the map. Ain't that some shit? Do you remember when you just ignored the map? Remember those days? Not anymore, you don't. Things are getting to change a little. Which gets me very excited. There were periods of time where it was kind of like when Hearthstone first came out, where you didn't pick a class, you just made a deck with like Argent Commander, Defender of Argus, Argent Squire, just like a whole bunch of the base, Shattered Sun Cleric. Any deck with those, done, you've won the game. You beat the video game. Same thing with StarCraft, where it was like, yeah, just first I pick my build, and then I find out what map I'm on. And that's not interesting. Fortunately, strategies have evolved. So we see innovation doing a very fast expand boldly onto low ground. Why? This has a lot to do with it. This is a pretty defensible region for Zerg as well, because it's kind of hard to do shoot-ups into here. It's pretty nice for Zerg to block with some queens, so Zergs don't want to go for fast pool, they want to just go for the usual queeny stuff. And similarly, Terran is happy to do this. I'm going to be generally focusing on innovation in this, but that doesn't mean that soO doesn't get a little bit of airtime. Hello, soO. One thing that is pretty common for Zerg to ask is, what is it like over at the third base? Well, over at the third base, it has this big, gigantic open side. It has this choke that is at a disjointed location from this choke. If we park here, we can kind of get run arounded here. We can get someone actually just to waltz straight up here. We can get poked from here. So the third is a little bit obnoxious to defend. Like, for instance, if this were just a wall, there were nothing here, then I think many Zergs would be more content to skip gas. But if your third is a pain in the ass to take, we see Zergs get fast gas just to get the Zergling speed. So simple. So simple, so divine. Okay, who remembers... Here's an internet quiz. Who remembers shiggity shiggity schwa? Who remembers that? Who? Somehow I got stuck watching a whole bunch of, do you remember the SWF format? Ooh. People talk about GIF or GIF. Remember when people talked about SWF or SWIF? It's a SWIF. It's a SWIF. Shiggity shiggity schwa. Alright, look, nothing of note is happening here. Look, 2 Marines, he's expanding. Reactor going down. Why? Because the Hellions and space control. All you gotta do is know cool words like space control, and you're all aboard the pro-gamer arrogance train. That's right. If you get to use a word like transition, space control, poke, ooh, harassment. He's trying to power. Oh, all these things allow you to win an argument on the internet. Well, I don't think that that would be a good play for him, because that's going to make it more difficult for him to transition into powering, because he's lacking space control. Look at those sentences that you can make now. Boom! We use Hellions for space control, man. For map control. Oh! Shiggity, shiggity, schwa. Now, here is something that we see many people doing, actually, lately. As the Hellions are getting made, getting this second refinery, because who cares what the order of these buildings are. The core of everything is what's going on with these refineries. This is getting built while the factory's building to get a starport, and I liked this evolution, right? I enjoyed this. That Terrans were splitting away from the ultra-fast third command center in every fucking game. They were splitting away from that. That's good because it makes my life easier, but also because it creates kind of a neat skill component where it's not just, I think my build is good, so I'm going to ignore the fact that there's another player in this game. We get the starport out so we can do things, namely get the medevac, get the Viking to kill off overlords. So some of the variants of this are to go straight into Banshee, to get a Viking and then get a medevac. But one of the things that I love is when a player questions the least questioned part of a build. Now don't go overboard and be like, I'm going to question building depots. I'm going to be the first ever depotless Terran. I'm going to question mules, and I'm going to be a supply drop only Terran. You know, don't go too crazy. But look at this. Double Hellion straight into double mine. Wait a minute. See, here's the cool sexy moment where if you recognize this shape of buildings, you're going, wait, this is c'est très différent. This is very unusual, and going straight for the medevac. Ooh, that's funky. I mean, look at this. So low on gas, there's not even stim getting built. We're going to talk about this in a moment. I first want to briefly step on over to soO land, Shiggity shiggity soO. So we see the usual getting of the gas, leaving a dude in gas. Some players do this, some players don't do this. I'm not going to make a big deal about that. Out. Oh, there we go. There he is. Beautiful, splendiferous hatchery. So this is very common, the fast 3 base. It's not hyper fast, but it's fast enough. So what we're seeing out of soO is this decision to get a roach warren up. This I just think is an all-round safe, solid play. We can go into like really meta logic and talk about how many Terran players will often be super light on their defenses at the front because they don't expect an attack. I mean, screw all that. This is a solid way to deflect roaches, or deflect Hellion harassment here and here. We just have a very mobile force. We're not going nuts with queens. And I'm going to spend a brief period of time just examining soO as he's getting this extra extractor up. See, he doesn't see so much. He can't really pierce in. He's going to see the Hellions come out. Let's see. Yeah, look, he's going to just get some roaches out. And these roaches are rarely bad. It's hard for just some early roaches to be very, very weak. Just a handful. When you have a map that's really open and you know your opponent is going to be going Hellion like this. But here's a weirdness to this map that, again, we used to never think about. We used to just go, screw the map. I choose my strat and worry about the map later. Catalina has a lot of weird paths. On a map like, actually, let me come to this. On a map like this, we actually see that Zerg has this attack path up here. They have this open attack path. They can even run Zerglings like this. There's multiple paths that make it surprisingly hard for these Hellions to control. If this were a flat wall, like there were nothing here, and this was just open space, it would even be a little bit easier to manage big incoming attacks. So I think this is pretty cool that soO is going for this ultra-fast Baneling Nest combo 3 extractor play. He stays 1 extractor, he doesn't create any vulnerabilities here, and he's just going to go straight for the bust. This is another super hyper powerful play. It works a lot. Because again, the Hellions run this way. Actually, come to the minimap cam. You know, it runs this way. The Hellions, which gives us the chance to run this way. And you'll note the Hellions have these discrete locations where they can move down to the center. So this gives us the opportunity to be a little bit sneakier with our stuff. soO isn't that awesome. Innovation more or less is doing this all-in-y type thing. Or excuse me, soO more or less is doing this all-in-y type thing. So I just want you to understand that soO is doing this blind. There are reasons to get Roach Warrens because Hellbats are a real pain in the ass now. But functionally speaking, this is a build opening that can go into an all-in or into a just defense versus Hellion pressure. But here's what I find really fascinating. Innovation's going to do this build many times in this series. He just has 2. These Hellions tend to not do terribly much because Hellions are built to stop the all-in plays. They're to stop the mass Zergling plays. And here we see Innovation just sprinting for this weird Widowmine play. So there's a couple of things that immediately are apparent. First and foremost, if you don't have a lot of Hellions, you don't have a good thing to hold off the all-ins with. And this is where certain parts of build orders are forced. Innovation instantly is going to get a tech lab and instantly going to build tanks. He has to wind up getting the extra barracks down because that's just part of standard Terran play. He's going to have to get these extra refineries down if he's going to be beginning tank production because it's really expensive on gas to get tanks and medevacs and upgrades. And what is this to do? This is a weird timing that most Zergs are not that comfortable with because you're kind of expecting, you know, at least that you can delay your spore crawlers, because the Banshees can't quite be out that soon. But the medevac builds a lot faster. It moves a lot faster. So note all the interesting things that happen as a result of this drop. First and foremost, we get to scout. Like, Innovation didn't see anything before this. He's scouting, and it's kind of a low-impact scout. These guys are pretty inexpensive. He's gotten the sense that, okay, yeah, I'm going to be up against some type of all-in, so now he knows how to prepare. He's also maybe getting to deal some damage and delay the all-in and distract. Units lost looking good so far. The biggest question is, again, if we are going to be defending old all-ins with lots of Hellions, we need a way to defend these new all-ins right now. I think it's possible for this barracks to have been given this reactor. I think that's just like a small optimization that's going to be super good. Now, one thing that I'm not sure about is whether these mines should be retreated immediately. Probably not. I think Innovation should have been a little bit more aware with, you know, Roach War and Baneling Nest. So when I saw this first game, I mean, really what we're seeing is a strategic oversight. This build order that we're going to see, that actually we are seeing out of Innovation, it just has a big weakness here that could have been covered up. Like, Innovation could have held this off, quite frankly. And anytime there's this sort of interesting strategic build, it must have an answer to the all-ins of yore, or the typical all-ins. Yeah. So, we are in fact going to see Innovation not win this. I kind of want to talk about this game a little bit more. Let me actually speed through the end, but still come back to this moment where the drop happens. This drop's goal is to deal damage and to buy a little bit of time. Part of me really wonders if these guys should come back, but I think most importantly, Innovation needs to begin building these bunkers a lot earlier. Like, these barracks down here, they don't need to be there. I mean, look how long it takes to build these bunkers.
Your forces are under attack.
Right. There we go. There we are. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is a super late preparation. So when I look at this, it's just like, it's just one of those losses that happens on the ladder, and you're like, no, that was, no, do over, and you just queue up and you ignore that last game because it's okay. And this is, I mean, this should be cool for two reasons. For one, Innovation is doing something nifty. He's doing a different opening that is buying him time, that's allowing him to transition into siege tanks that can potentially deal a lot of damage to a Zerg that's teching way too fast. You can slay Zergs who are teching way too fast and find out exactly what he's up to. But we see Innovation just be a little bit too light on the defense. Come on, Innovation. Come on, man. And the other reason this should warm your heart is that I feel like every player has this happen every so often. Like 1 out of every 10 games, you're like, oh, that was stupid, I just messed up. And it happens to Innovation in the GSL finals. So sweet. Shiggity, shiggity, schwang. What's especially neat here, as we speed the game up to warp speed, we're going to see the eventual motivation behind Innovation's play come into full light. Right now, he has fallen behind because, you know, you saw that happen. And he floats around with medevacs. Why? Because after all-ins, those spires tend to be late. Do we see any third command center? My god, no, we don't. It can't be. Well, it is. Look at Innovation's super sweet, dope play. Now we understand why the hell Innovation was doing a build order that got a whole bunch of siege tanks up quickly. Look at the move that he can do on this map. Siege tanks on the low ground, Marines on high, siege tanks firing down, soO starts to sigh. With just a little bit more preparations, just a few more, Innovation wouldn't have taken as much damage in that all-in. And with just a little bit more preparation, not too much, just a little bit more, Innovation would have had a much bigger army. And then at this juncture in time, this tank actually needs to be right here real bad. This is a super isolated spot for a tank, as you can see. Innovation is... he's not exactly losing this. I mean, he's reinforcing, and soO's going to have to super barely pull away. But look at this. This exploit of this little cute piece of terrain is working out so brilliantly for Innovation. Makes it especially fun to watch. And I mean, like, imagine for a moment if soO had expanded here. Innovation can do things like siege tanks here, and then do lifts onto this protrusion, which also exists for these other bases on the map. Oops, excuse me. See, this little center thing has a nice little protrusion for dropping on. This is cool. Look at this dope push. This sweet baller push. Just a little bit flubbed, at the outset. Innovation will inevitably lose. But if I had to describe this game in a few steps, it would be the soO autopiloting on the all-in, didn't really do much scouting, just real basic. Super simple all-in. If you don't know it, it's the 3 gas, 3 hatch, no layer tech all-in with a lot of the basic pastries. Units are called pastries now. Into tanks. Why? Why the hell would you do that? Because of that sweet push. And it almost worked. It almost worked, right? So I'm watching this and I'm like, wow, soO brought a new strategy to the table. And in a second round of WoW, dude, you messed it up. Oh, dude, you got to do something that isn't that. But you know, I like where this is going. I like the thought process behind this. Very unusual to see a big new build order type thing. Typically what we see is a different style that a player has brought to the finals. Like, for instance, if any of you were big Wings of Liberty watchers and saw Squirtle versus MVP, I think that was a beautiful example. Squirtle brought this Blink Immortal Sentry opening. Very, very weird looking, unusual opening, and transition into a Colossus Stalker force almost every single game. Like no Zealot High Templar, which I know sounds kind of crazy, but he would absolutely be emphasizing that. And that was his style, right? But, I mean, here we see Innovation having a weird build order opening. As well as that, which just gets me all wiggly and excited. So Innovation is opening up normally, dude. He's going Command Center first on, like, the best map to do this on. Bam! We're seeing soO. He's getting his extractor with his gas, and, I mean, you can skip this. I mean, like, again, if you look at the third base, it has this attack angle right here. So if you shove queens here, you can generally evade most attacks because this is kind of a long path to move along. I'm going to put the Overlord there. But I can understand it. It's just a very, very safe way to open. This game is not going to require very much analysis because it's a little bit face-palmy. I have a good bit of respect for Innovation for having thrown down this bunker because it's very easy to be like, no, I don't need a bunker, no, man, no, I'm not about that sort of thing, man. Hey, what do you know? It's third command center. This is the stuff of heartache, the stuff of just facepalm, the stuff of legend. Oh yes, this is the build of old, the builds of yore. Hey, Roach Warrant. Hey, 2 extractors. Yup, you called it too. Same all-in as last time. Why on this map? Super tight distances. The rush shows up very, very quickly. And, I mean, Innovation is just bluntly, he's not prepared. He is not prepared. So a little bit of history here. Very often what players do is they go double Engineering Bay at 7 minutes, but many players found that this was just a little bit too defenseless. It was a little bit too light. So what did they do? They began to build extra barracks. What we're seeing out of innovation is nothing. Nothing at all. There's the extra barracks. What did I tell ya? Boink. Hey, here's these engineering bays. Boink. These are late. These are just absolutely late. Bedixson. You see that salvaged guy? You see Mr. Salvaged guy? Hey, you see why? You see why this all-in timing is scary? Because most Terran players are like, oh, I'm so safe, yeah. And it's also scary because most Zerg players have not yet even had the chance to get drones there. So this is just an oh shit moment for innovation. This is just super common face palmy. Oh crap! Look at the little embarrassed command center whip around. Look at him. He's just like, no, I'm gonna land. You got it right away. Okay, gonna land here. You got it right away. This all-in that we see out of soO is unusually effective on maps where Terran are 100% positive that they're safe because of amazing terrain. Like, Terrans are just like, dude, look at the size of this choke. I'm cool, man, I'm safe. Which intuitively should be the worst map for Zergs to do it on, but Terrans cut so many corners in so many ways that oftentimes we can hip hip hooray, all in. Yay. It was that blast, I think, was like a big moment right here. The one that happened here. Let me slow it down to normal. I mean, this isn't like an amazing game to analyze. I mean, it's, you know, it's a game. Widow Mines do extra big damage. Let me to our own things, which doesn't hurt. Which doesn't help in some circumstances. I mean, this is just a really good all-in, designed to punish Terran players who do things like salvage this bunker and who do things like have a single supply depot at the wall. Yep, this hurts your Terran heart, right? Hurts your Terran heart. But don't worry, those are the only 2 games that innovation drops, and if you're soO, you're going to be fist pumping all the way to heaven. Because you're going to want to die after this final game. Okay. Yeah, when this one's done, look, I'm just gonna look at poor innovations just letting his whole base die. But doing some clever research. Anyone else see that? This is actually one of the highest level things ever. When you're dead, you know you're dead. So what do? You save up and you investigate. Okay. Okay, how all in was that? How all in are we talking? He scans here, and he scans here. Come on, one more time. He's actually waiting for enough energy. Yep. He waited for enough energy to be able to scan this. Pretty sick, right? He's dead, but he's saving energy to get last dying information and know how all in were you. Now, what could be the case in a best of 7 is you say, dude, I really got to reformulate my whole build, but we're going to see innovation do the same build as in game 1, this really neat Widow Mine thing, and we're going to start to see its strengths. After this break, let's listen to some music from Bastion. On a break.